Hunting the largest animals in the medieval world was never a simple pursuit of food. It was an organized confrontation with creatures powerful enough to kill men easily, and dangerous enough to demand planning, hierarchy, and ritual. These hunts were not spontaneous acts of bravery. They were deliberate operations shaped by fear, tradition, and authority. The largest animals, aurochs, European bison, bears, wild boar, elk, did not exist close to villages. They lived deep in forests, marshes, and borderlands where human control weakened. Entering those spaces meant leaving safety behind. Medieval people understood this clearly. The forest was not neutral ground. It was hostile, unpredictable, and alive with threat. Large game hunts were almost always collective. No one hunted giants alone unless desperate or foolish. Groups were assembled carefully. Roles were assigned. Scouts tracked movement days in advance. Hunters studied paths, wallows, feeding grounds. Knowledge mattered more than strength. A single mistake could turn prey into executioner. Weapons reflected this danger. Bows and crossbows were used to wound from distance, not to kill immediately. A wounded animal slowed, bled, weakened. The final kill was reserved for heavy spears designed specifically for stopping charges. Boar spears had wide crossguards to prevent an animal from running itself further up the shaft and reaching the hunter. These designs were born from experience and death. Dogs were essential. Large hunting dogs flushed animals from cover, distracted them, exhausted them. Many dogs died doing this work. Their loss was expected. Their purpose was to buy time and space for men to act. Medieval hunting accepted animal sacrifice as normal. The hunt unfolded slowly. Noise was controlled. Wind direction mattered. Once contact was made, chaos followed. A charging boar could tear open horses and men alike. Bears fought relentlessly when cornered. Bison and aurochs could scatter groups instantly, trampling anything in their path. Panic was lethal. Discipline saved lives. Nobility dominated these hunts not because commoners lacked courage, but because access was restricted. Large game hunting was a privilege tied to land ownership and power. Forest laws forbade peasants from killing certain animals. Doing so invited severe punishment. Hunting giants was not just dangerous, it was political. For nobles, the hunt was training for war. Riding, coordination, command under pressure, these skills transferred directly to battlefields. The danger was real, and that was the point. A lord who could face a charging boar without breaking earned respect. Cowardice was remembered. Yet even nobles died. Historical records mention kings killed by boars, nobles mauled by bears, hunting parties wiped out by single animals. Armor helped little against tusks and claws. Horses panicked. Spears broke. The illusion of control vanished quickly. For common people, encounters with large animals were usually accidental and terrifying. A bear near livestock, a boar destroying crops. These were crises. Villages assembled ad hoc hunting groups, poorly equipped, driven by necessity rather than tradition. Death rates were high. Success was uncertain. Once an animal was killed, the danger did not end. Butchering massive carcasses took time. Blood attracted scavengers. Injuries became infected. Exhaustion followed. Victory was temporary relief, not triumph. Symbolism surrounded these hunts. Trophies were displayed. Tusks, hides, skulls, proof of dominance over nature. Feasts followed. Stories were exaggerated. Survival became legend. These narratives reinforced social order. Man over beast, noble over peasant, control over chaos. But beneath the ceremony was reality. Hunting the largest animals meant entering a space where humans were not superior, where preparation could fail, where strength was irrelevant against mass and instinct. It forced medieval people to confront limits they could not negotiate with law or faith. These hunts did not romanticize nature. They reminded everyone watching that survival, even outside war, was never guaranteed. And this was only the beginning of what these confrontations demanded. As the hunt progressed, danger intensified rather than diminished. Wounded large animals did not retreat quietly. They became unpredictable, aggressive, and relentless. A boar struck by arrows often turned immediately, charging toward sound rather than fleeing it. Bears, once injured, fought with ferocity that surprised even experienced hunters. These moments decided who lived and who did not. Discipline mattered more than courage. A man who broke formation endangered everyone. Terrain became an enemy as deadly as the animal itself. Forest floors were uneven, tangled with roots and undergrowth. Marshes swallowed boots and slowed movement. Snow hid holes. Rain turned slopes into traps. A hunter who stumbled in front of a charging animal rarely stood again. Horses panicked easily. throwing riders at the worst possible moments. Medieval hunts were filled with accidents that had nothing to do with the prey. Weapons required proximity. Despite bows and crossbows, killing the largest animals demanded close contact. The final moments were intimate and violent. Spears had to be driven into chest or throat at precise angles. A misjudged thrust glanced off bone or hide. The animal struck back instantly. Tusks gored, hooves crushed, claws tore through clothing and flesh. There was no second chance. Armor offered limited protection. Thick hides and muscle absorbed blows that would kill a man. Boar tusks slid beneath mail. Bear claws crushed ribs through padding. Helmets protected skulls but restricted vision. Many fatal injuries occurred to legs and abdomen areas exposed by necessity of movement. The hunt punished hesitation brutally. Coordination saved lives. One group distracted, another attacked from the side. Dogs harried and exhausted. Horns signaled movement. Shouted commands cut through chaos. When coordination failed, death followed quickly. Medieval hunting manuals emphasized order repeatedly, because experience had proven that bravery without structure was useless. The moment of death was rarely clean. Large animals took time to fall. They bled heavily, thrashed violently, and screamed in ways that unsettled even hardened men. Killing was physical, exhausting, and psychologically intense. This was not sport in the modern sense. It was confrontation. Afterward came exhaustion rather than celebration. Men stood shaking, breathing heavily, often injured without realizing it. Adrenaline masked pain. Blood, human and animal-covered clothing. Only then did relief arrive, followed by quiet acknowledgement of how close death had been. Transporting the carcass was another ordeal. Massive bodies had to be cut apart or dragged with ropes and horses. This work exposed hunters to infection, strain, and scavengers. Wolves and other predators lingered nearby, drawn by scent. The hunt remained dangerous until the site was abandoned. For nobles, the aftermath included ceremony. The kill was claimed publicly, credit assigned, trophies prepared. Feasts followed, where danger was retold as triumph. These narratives reinforced status. Survival validated authority. The hunt became proof that nobles deserved power because they faced risks others could not. For common people, there was no ceremony. When villagers killed a dangerous animal, it was relief, not glory. The carcass meant meat, hides, tools. Survival, not symbolism. Injuries were treated with whatever knowledge existed. Many died days later from wounds that initially seemed minor. What these hunts revealed was not dominance over nature, but negotiation with it. Medieval people did not believe the wild could be controlled, only confronted temporarily. Each hunt was a reminder that humans were not apex predators by right, but by cooperation, planning, and sacrifice. Large game hunting shaped how medieval society understood danger. It reinforced hierarchy, rewarded coordination, and punished arrogance. It taught that preparation mattered more than strength, and that victory was never guaranteed. This understanding carried directly into warfare, leadership, and law. The forest was a battlefield without politics but with consequences just as final. And for those who entered it to face the largest animals of their world, survival was never assumed. It was earned, one mistake away from being denied. Hunting the largest animals in the medieval world was never a simple act of courage. It was a confrontation with forces that existed outside human control, creatures stronger, faster, and more resilient than any man. These hunts were not about sport alone. They were about authority, survival, and the fragile boundary between human order and the wild. In the Middle Ages, nature was not romanticized. Forests were feared. They were places where law weakened and danger multiplied. Wolves, bears, boar, bison, and the last aurochs moved through these spaces freely, capable of destroying crops, killing livestock, and maiming or killing people without warning. To hunt such animals meant entering their territory on their terms. Large game hunts required planning days or even weeks in advance. Scouts tracked movement, identified feeding grounds, and watched for signs of migration. Wind direction mattered. Terrain mattered. Timing mattered. A careless approach could scatter prey or trigger a charge before hunters were ready. Knowledge, passed down through experience rather than writing, was the most valuable weapon. No one hunted giants alone. Medieval people understood this instinctively. Groups were assembled with strict roles. Some men flushed animals from cover. Others waited with ranged weapons to weaken them. The most experienced hunters stood ready with heavy spears for the final confrontation. Dogs were released not to kill, but to exhaust and distract. Many never returned. Weapons reflected hard-earned lessons. Ordinary hunting spears were useless against massive bodies. Specialized boar spears featured wide crossguards to stop an animal from driving itself further up the shaft. Without them, hunters died impaled by their own weapons as wounded animals surged forward. Bows and crossbows were used to bleed prey slowly, not to finish it. The moment of contact was pure chaos. A charging boar moved faster than a man could react. Bears absorbed wounds that would fell any human instantly. Bison and aurochs could scatter entire groups, trampling men and horses alike. Panic was fatal. A single hunter breaking formation endangered everyone. Armor offered little reassurance. Mail and padding could deflect glancing blows, but tusks, horns, and claws targeted legs and abdomen areas that had to remain mobile. Many fatal injuries were not dramatic. A crushed thigh, a torn artery, a fall beneath hooves. Death arrived quietly and without ceremony. For nobles, these hunts carried symbolic weight. Large-game hunting was often restricted by law, reserved for those with land and title. Killing dangerous animals demonstrated dominance over nature and reinforced social hierarchy. The hunt became proof of legitimacy. A lord who survived danger earned respect. A lord who failed was remembered. But the danger was real, regardless of status. Kings were killed by boars. Noble hunting parties were wiped out by bears. Chronicles recorded these deaths without surprise. Medieval society understood that nature did not recognize rank. Entering the forest meant accepting that truth. For common people, encounters with large animals were rarely chosen. Bears attacked livestock. Boars destroyed crops. Villages formed desperate hunting parties out of necessity, not prestige. Poor equipment, limited training, and fear made these hunts especially lethal. Failure meant starvation. Success meant survival, nothing more. Once an animal was killed, the danger continued. Massive carcasses had to be butchered on sight. Blood attracted predators. Exhaustion lowered awareness. Infections followed even minor wounds. Many hunters died days later, long after the moment of victory. Yet these hunts persisted. They produced meat, hides, tools, and stories. Tusks and skulls were displayed as trophies. Feasts followed noble kills. Songs exaggerated danger and bravery. Survival was transformed into narrative, reinforcing power and tradition. But beneath the ceremony lay a harsher reality. Hunting the largest animals in the Middle Ages was not about mastery. It was about negotiation with forces that could not be controlled, only confronted temporarily. Each hunt reminded people that humanity's dominance was conditional, earned through cooperation, planning, and sacrifice. The forest was not conquered. It was entered, endured, and survived sometimes. And every time men went in search of the largest beasts of their world, they knew one truth clearly. The hunt did not forgive mistakes, and it never promised return.